Well, good morning, everyone. This is Michael O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion regarding Hurricane Dorian for September 3rd, 2019, recorded around 9:14 in the morning. Hurricane Dorian is now beginning to move off towards the north and towards the west here over about 1 mile an hour now. Not really moving all that much, but again, we're going to be continuing to monitor how close Hurricane Dorian gets to the coast. And again, you can see here's Hurricane Dorian, and here's the Florida coastline right here. And it's going to be pretty interesting to see exactly how far of a track this could get to the Florida East Coast. Again, the current track is for this to just sort of head off like this. However, any deviation and any wobbles could change that overall track and bring further advance the tropical storm and hurricane force conditions along the Florida East Coast. There is a marginal risk for severe weather from Jacksonville, Florida, all the way down towards near West Palm Beach, as these outer rain bands of Hurricane Dorian will start coming onshore later this afternoon. And you can already see there's been these rain bands that have occurred even overnight last night. We had some rain bands that was coming into Florida, producing a little bit of rotation, not enough to really warrant any tornado warnings, but we are continuing to monitor. That's something we're going to be monitoring here, over the next coming few hours. But again, it's going to be really interesting to see exactly how close Hurricane Dorian comes to the coast. And you can see this is a very broad core. This is not a well-established, tight inner core like we saw a couple days ago when Dorian was Category 5. Dorian is barely a Category 3 right now, with maximum sustained winds of about 120 miles an hour. Actually, I think they moved it down to 115. Yeah, they did. So maximum sustained winds of about 115 miles an hour, moving towards the northwest, 325 degrees at 1 mile per hour. The pressure is 954 millibars recorded by aircraft reconnaissance. So again, but not necessarily a weaker storm means all said and good for Florida. The problem is that since this is a broad core now, the impacts are felt over a much broader area. And if we go to I should have already had this up, but if we go towards the interactive cone here, and we'll go ahead and put this on with labels, you can see, if we can zoom in, there's the broad inner core, the very broad inner core of Hurricane Dorian, making near tropical storm force winds up towards near Palm Bay. This is the edge of the sustained tropical storm force winds now getting into West Palm and Port St. Lucie. West Palm Beach and Boca Raton have been in the tropical storm force conditions since yesterday. And now, since it's starting to make its jog slowly towards the north and west, this is going to advance closer and closer into the Florida East Coast area. For that reason, there is still a hurricane warning that extends from Volusia County all the way south towards Indian River County, with storm surge watches and warnings posted there as well. Again, with the track a little bit further away from the coast, that means that tropical storm conditions will not be felt as far inland as once thought. However, if you live from the Orlando metro over towards the east, you could still feel tropical storm force winds, especially along the coast, but with any squalls that come in. And any track deviation would shift these a good 20 to 30 miles inland. So we have to keep cognizant of the fact that, even a slight westward wobble could mean a long-term effect for portions of the Florida East Coast. And we've even seen that a little bit, that Dorian, once it was established in inner core and lost it, it almost started to wobble a little bit towards the west. And again, that's going to be something that we have to continue to monitor. Again, a broader inner core, and this might be undergoing another eyewall replacement cycle, we'll just have to see. But a broader inner core means a broader overall wind field of Dorian. And as Dorian continues to move up parallel to the Florida East Coast, that wind will be coming onshore at some point, especially once Dorian is somewhere up in here. This onshore flow is going to kick into the Florida East Coast, and bring that storm surge along with the parallel track of Dorian. That also brings that storm surge up into portions near the Brevard County line, Brevard-Volusia County line, Cape Canaveral, Port Canaveral, those areas could see storm surge up to 4 to 7 feet, all the way up towards Jacksonville and even into portions of South Carolina that could see 4 to 7 feet of storm surge above ground level. So again, just because we have a broader inner core doesn't always mean that it's all good news. There's a broader inner core, but a broader wind field as a result. And tropical storm conditions extend out 160 miles from the center, with hurricane force winds expanding out about 50 miles from the center. So with the track only about 70 miles offshore, that will still bring portions of Florida the tropical storm force conditions, especially if you live along the coast of Brevard, Flagler, Volusia counties. So we're going to have to continue to monitor that. As we turn towards the long-term track of Dorian, Dorian could get extremely close to North Carolina, potentially even making landfall. Hurricane watches have been issued for portions of South Carolina and all of Georgia. So we're going to have to continue to monitor the progress of Hurricane Dorian. Again, just because we have a broader inner core in a weaker system does not mean the best. And again, any slight wobbles that occur, any slight wobbles that do occur will have impacts and implications for portions of the Florida East Coast. Again, that's something that we can't really predict well. We cannot predict these wobbles that well. So even if you get something like this where it wobbles, say like that, on its overall motion, its overall general motion is towards the northwest. If it does a wobble like that, that has implications for portions of the Florida East Coast and even inland. So even though you may not get a landfall, and you probably will not get a landfall at this point, that any slight deviation could bring the core of the hurricane force winds onshore to the Florida East Coast. So again, we're going to be continuing to monitor this throughout the day. Again, you can see the squalls of Hurricane Dorian already getting into the Florida East Coast here, and this will only continue throughout the day. Once Dorian gets to be more towards the north and west, these squalls will start rotating around and could even have some isolated tornadoes along the portion of the Florida East Coast from West Palm Beach to near Jacksonville, Florida today. Again, we're going to be continuing to monitor that. Tropical storm conditions likely as Dorian continues its approach off towards the northwest about 1 mile per hour currently. Tropical storm conditions and hurricane conditions possible for portions of the Florida East Coast. That's going to be it for me right now. I will have another video update around noon today, and maybe starting live coverage there shortly after that. That is it for me right now. I will be back with you later. Stay safe.